Chapter 2. Fear. What is it? An old Arab story reports a conversation between an Arab chief and pestilence. "Why," asked the Arab chief, "must you hasten to Baghdad?" "To take 5,000 lives," Pestilence replied. Upon the way back from the city of Caiaphas, Pestilence and the caravan met again. "You deceived me," the chief said angrily. "Instead of 5,000 lives, you took 50,000. "Nay," Pestilence replied, 5,000 and not one more. It was fear that killed the rest." This is not a pretty story, but it illustrates the ratio of our fear to the evils that befalls us. It is as true as depressions and epidemics as our personal difficulties, misunderstanding, and problems. The dictionary defines fear as the painful emotion caused by a sense of impending danger or evil. The metaphysician defines emotion as a mental reaction to certain stimuli which may come from without or within the mind. We shall understand both of these definitions better if we think of fear as a mental picture, as an attitude of the mind, as an idea that uses us, and of emotion as an expression of soul power or of feeling in motion. If we put the two together, fear becomes an intense emotion directed into destructive channels. Man's worst enemy through the ages has not been famine, pestilence, war, disease, poverty, liquor, organized crime, or death, but fear. It is not only the most paralyzing, destructive, and wasteful of all human emotion, but it does more to build diseases, enervate life, destroy health, kill ambition, and dull the faculties of the mind than anything else known to man. Fear is the great nemesis of the human race. It has injured and ruined the lives of more people, destroyed more characters, caused more failures, created more conflicts, and made more cowards than any other cause. St. John says that fear hath torment. Fear is an invitation to everything that is undesirable. It works in the dark and secluded places of our mind, undermining and digging into the very foundation of our lives as termites do in the timbers of our house. One of the classic examples of the power of fear is the story of Job in the Bible. "The thing which I greatly feared," he said, "is come upon me." According to the scriptural record, Job's fear was so great and consuming in its effect that it caused him to lose not only his material possession, but his health and his family as well. It was only when he dropped his fears and changed his thinking that he regained his health and that his possessions grew beyond anything he had known before. We like to think of Job's experience as out of the ordinary, but actually it is the pattern of every fear held steadfastly in the mind. What we impress on the subconscious mind, and all crystallized fears function subconsciously, has by the very nature of that mind a tendency to grow. The bad becomes worse and the good becomes better. Constant apprehension produces ever-increasing losses, obstructions, and limitations in the body and affairs. If allowed to work unchallenged, fear will keep boring in, keep digging away, and keep agitating until it has undermined and wrecked health and affairs. In fact, there is nothing that escapes the depressing, devastating, and consuming effect of our fear. "A man's foe," said Jesus, "shall be thy of his own household." Most everyone carries with him a more or less dominant fear of which he may not be conscious. In one person, the fear may be so strong that it changes his entire character and personality. In another, it may be so successfully sublimated that its results are negligible. But uncontrolled fear influences man's life more profoundly than do any of his other emotions. Jesus was right when he said that a man's enemies are the invisible and destructive thoughts of his own mind. Fear is not only an active element in all disease, but is actively associated with worry, jealousy, anger, greed, and envy. There are only two fears present at birth, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. We soon begin to develop others, however, and before long we have a terrible array of them. We fear failure in business, failure of health, danger to loved ones. We fear that we may not have enough money to meet our obligations, or that we may lose the money and possessions we have. We fear that we may lose our position, or that another's success may interfere with our own progress. We fear crowds, open spaces, high places, and closed places. We fear harmless animals such as mice, dogs, rats, and cats. We fear the dark, the wind, lightning, and thunder. We fear certain foods or combinations of food, dust germs, old age, insanity, poverty, heredity, and future punishment. We fear that we may do or say something wrong. We fear fire, sex, marriage, childbirth, and journey. We fear nearly all new undertaking and situations. We are afraid of facing facts, of ridicule, of being unpopular, or of not succeeding in our work. We are afraid that we will do something that people will think queer. We are afraid others will criticize our clothes, our neckties, or the way we do our hair. In spite of all our vaunted education, civilization, spiritual advantage, there are still millions of people who are victimized by silly superstitions and the fears that enslaved our ancestors. It is incredible that otherwise intelligent people still believe that Friday the 13th, or walking under a ladder, or a black cat crossing the path brings bad luck, or that two friends looking into a mirror at the same time sever their friendship, or that giving a knife or other sharp instrument to another makes him an enemy, or that returning to the house after something forgotten brings disaster, or that owing opals brings bad luck. What must the Almighty think of those gullible and benighted Christians who patronize astrologers, palmists, and mediums, and then worry themselves sick over their dire predictions? Or that vast number of superstitious people who carry wishbones, rabbit feet, or horse chestnuts in their pocket? Or those others who pick their hairpins and hang them on the first rusty nail they see to forestall misfortune and disaster? When will we learn that nothing of a calamitous nature happens to us except those things that we permit through our own mental attitude? When will we realize that it is the mental acceptance of the thing predicted and not the prediction itself that brings disaster? The thing which I greatly feared, had faith in, is come upon me. It is not uncommon for superstitious people to defend their superstitions on the basis that they are harmless. But are they harmless? Can a belief that man is at the mercy of a movement of the stars or the relics or of signs and symbols be harmless? Can anything be harmless that teaches a man to believe in a power opposed to God? Why do we remain in the grip of the era before Christ when we live in the 20th century? Why do we follow fakers when we can just as easily follow Jesus? What the superstitious person needs is to have the mind in him, which was also in Christ Jesus. What he needs is the consciousness that knows no power opposed to God. Fear is faith in evil. Its antidote is faith in God. The person with great faith in God has no fear. St. Paul said, "Put off the old man, and put on the new man, which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness." In other words, recognize the divine presence and consciously use it. Bring it into manifestation through your thought and word, not by direct frontal attack, but by the displacement of evil with good. Let some new purpose come into your life, a purpose so big and fine that it fires your imagination, captures your interest, and leaves no room for fear in your mind. There are many ways to attack the problem of fear, but probably the best and most scientific way is to study its nature and purpose. It is, first of all, a primal instinct given to man to aid him in avoiding and overcoming the danger. It is important that we learn early to distinguish between normal and abnormal fear. Normal fear leads to safety and efficiency. The fear that tells us to drive carefully, to get out of a burning building, to run for an air raid shelter, to look out for trains or speeding motor cars, to look at the label on a medicine bottle before we drink its contents, to go to a doctor when we are seriously ill, is a friend. Abnormal fear, on the other hand, magnifies evil and makes a mountain out of a molehill. It turns the hair white, paralyzes the nervous system, slows down the circulation, and poisons the body. It is an enemy. If we accept its suggestion, it will destroy us. It is obvious that fear of any kind will always be to us what we are of it. Fear will always follow the trend of our thought. It is a healthy fear. It will quicken our perception and stimulate us to thought and action. If it is an unhealthy fear, it will paralyze our thinking, ruin our spontaneity, and destroy our self-confidence. If we are conscious of God as instant and unfailing help, there will be nothing for us to fear in ourselves, in others, or in the world. If we are conscious of God as omnipresent life within us, we cannot fear sickness or death. Knowing him as our shield and protector, we cannot fear danger, calamity, or accident. Knowing him as supply, we cannot fear shortage, depression, hard time, or lack in our business or personal lives.